Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. In this video we're going to be having a look at the Anbernic RG 40XXV. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so let's have a look at the Anbernic RG 40XXV. Comes in a few different colours. This one is indigo blue. You can also get transparent black and white, and you can see here you vertically aspect ratio, and it's actually got a thumbstick on this one, which is quite cool. But before we open it up, it also got the carry case with it. This came along with it. It was about £75, and I got it through the holidays on sale from Droids UK, which I would highly recommend to anyone. You could probably pick it up if you were going to go to like AliExpress or some other similar company, but I would definitely stick to what we know, and they are really reliable and you get next day service. But anyway, let's get this device opened up. And it is such a striking colour of blue, and I like how the thumbstick lights up, the LED sort of lights up round about it. Utterly pointless, but it still looks pretty cool. Now we'll have a look at this in a little moment. In the box you usually get a charge cable, instructions, and there's also a second memory card included, which I think there is actually two memory slots. There's one on each side. It's basically just further expands the ability to add more games. Usually what you find with these units, it is probably one is for the Android side and one is for Linux, but on this occasion there is no Android on this device. It is purely a plug and play, and this is just an instruction manual to help you get started if you need. Now there's lots of information on this, just the different shortcuts that you want to maybe find, and it tells you what the sort of unit supports. It really supports up to maybe PSP, PS1, Dreamcast and N64. It won't be playing anything over and above that like GameCube and PS2, so this is nowhere near powerful. If you're interested in that, have a look at the RG Cube instead. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual unit itself. Now I'll leave the stats on the screen if you're interested in that type of thing. What I can tell you is it's got a great battery life, 6 to 8 hours, and it's fantastic. Most of Anbernic products are really good with that type of thing, and very reliable. It's got a great screen as well. It's got a usual D-pad, start and select button. They all feel quite mushy and sort of rather small, but nice A, B, X, Y buttons. You've also got a menu button here in the middle, and also the thumbstick, which is really nice. It does feel nice. It does also click in, and as I said, it does light up round there, which is kind of cool. There is two memory cards. This is the one that's defaulted when you get the device, and you get one already in the box, and it basically has more ROMs on it. So you'll probably find when you boot it up you've got thousands of ROMs already. You've got a headphone jack, and you also have a USB-C charging slot at the bottom, and you've got a front facing sort of a stereo sound. You've got your volume up and down at the top there. You've also, interestingly enough, got a mini HDMI out. I guess that's for if you want to display it on your TV, which I guess is quite handy. You've also got a reset button here around the side. Hopefully don't need to use that very often, and the on-off switch right here. And at the back you also have the shoulder buttons. You've got L1, L2, R1 and R2, and they actually feel quite comfortable to reach. Now they're not, you'll probably be using your trigger fingers to actually reach them rather than anything else. I think using anything else it probably won't be too comfortable, but they feel nice enough. Your fingers do rest on them, so it's not as if it's a stretch to actually reach them. I've seen similar devices where it's really not comfortable to use these shoulder buttons. However, for the majority of the games on this, you probably won't be using them that often anyway. Much like the thumbstick, you probably won't be using them very often, apart from maybe Dreamcast games and N64 games. So interestingly, it does take a little while to actually boot up first time. It maybe takes a minute or two, but you get this basic sort of look when you sort of boot up. Now I guess there will be other options. There'll probably be other firmware that you might want to look at, although if you're just interested in a plug and play device, you might not really be that bothered. I would just put the second memory card in and just plug and play and go. And I guess a lot of people like that sort of thing is just plug and play the games. As I said, this lights up, which is actually quite cool. Probably utterly pointless to be honest, but it does add a nice sort of aesthetic to it, which is quite pleasing on the eye. So let's have a look at what this thing actually has and all the different options. So we've got a menu button. If you press the menu button, you get different options: lock screen, LED settings, date and time, the usual stuff, RetroArch settings, lots of stuff that you probably don't really need to look at too much, to be honest. Different options now. As I said, I have put in the second memory card, and you can choose between them. Some of them actually have repeated games on them. If you get into the first one, you can see you've only got 11 games, but if you go into the second one, we've got 10 games, but some of the games are actually different, so it's a little bit of a messy way to work it, rather than having everything on the one card. But it is what it is. At least we've got plenty of games we can get stuck into. We've got PlayStation 1 games, 136 of them. Vertical Arcade, which I guess will look quite good on this little screen. We've got the Capcom games, Neo Geo games, Fireburn, Neo, MAME, GBA. Just jumping at that, we've got 780 GBA games, which is pretty cool. Get NES games, there's 668 SNES. Sega Master System, look at that, there's 1000 SNES games, Mega Drive 505, Sega 32X. Now there is loads. I'm not going to go through everything. I will maybe pick and choose what you can see here. But if you go into, you've got RA game, which is a bit weird. So this gives a little bit more details in the things you can choose. You'll find there's more options here than in the first setting. It is quite messy how it's set up. As I said, you might want to look at getting a better firmware updated, because it does get quite messy. This is where you'll find your Dreamcast games and N64 games. There are not that many actually installed, so you may need to add your own ROMs, which you can do. You've got Atari 2600 games, there's 183. Atomiswave, the usual stuff that you normally find. And that's it. Now you can add more stuff. There's probably folders on the actual memory card where you can maybe add something like C64 games, Amiga stuff, that type of thing if you're interested in it. But there are plenty of stuff to play here. Even there's Pico 8, which, oh, jumped into the wrong one. So even Pico 8, which I like to see on devices like this, because the aspect ratio is perfect to be playing them. And they are quite good fun. There's about 39 included. I will have a look at them later on. There's actually even Saturn games. I don't think this device is powerful enough to play them, although the performance it's so-so, but I wouldn't expect too much from Saturn style games. And that's really it. There's lots of stuff that you'd expect. There's probably a few thousand games already included, and there's apps as well which are probably a little bit pointless, and there's also favourites. So basically, if you find your game that you want to play, you can add it to the favourites. So basically press the start button to add it to favourites, and it'll jump into that sort of folder. There's also the option to change the emulator that it's running. Let me find an option that we can choose here in some of the games. Some of them, they are already defaulted. Let me have a look, find a good example. PlayStation. So as you can see here, it says select Y for the core. Now sometimes the default is absolutely fine, but if you find you're struggling, you can press the Y button and you can choose a different core to actually run the games if you don't find that this core defaulted to is running very well. So that option is there, which is quite nice. It's very easy to find. Okay, I suppose for starters we will look at PSP games. I'll jump into perhaps the one that we usually play, which would be God of War. Let's have a look at the performance of that. Now you can jump into the PSP emulator and change the setting. I think it has defaulted to frame skip already, frame skip of 1. Now let me put the sound up just a little bit so you can get an idea what the sound is like through this single screen. See, even though it's just a single speaker, the sound is very, very good. So screen quality is absolutely fine. You can see the sort of viewing angles are all perfect. It is a laminated screen, which is really, really nice. Very high quality. And the sound is excellent too. Now so far it's not too bad. I don't think there's too much issues going on here. For a relatively sort of underpowered device, it's not the worst I've played. Could probably put the frame skip up a little bit more, but as you can see it does stutter here and there. It's not quite running at full speed. Oh yeah, and just out of curiosity, you actually need to use the thumbstick for PSP as well, forgetting that. Now still sticking with PSP, playing something like Grand Theft Auto initially seemed okay, but once you get into it, it does start to stutter and struggle a little bit. So For the best part, I probably won't really play the PSP games at full speed. It will struggle a little bit. As I said, this is a pretty low powered device. Ideally you'll probably only play up to Dreamcast and probably N64. Once you get into the main road, there's more traffic. It's quite obvious that it's not going to perform perfect. As soon as we hit the main road, see it's starting to struggle. So sadly, probably not great for PSP overall. Let's have a look at PlayStation. It really should play this pretty well, you would think, because PlayStation really is easier to emulate. PlayStation 1 that is. Let's find a game. Now, I really wouldn't expect this device to have any issues playing PlayStation 1 games, and you can see here it does look fantastic on this. Certainly better performance wise than PSP. There is also the option to play Nintendo DS games, which I think play okay. Let's have a quick look at one of them. Let's try Final Fantasy 3. Can't imagine this being too difficult. Again, like I think it's a drastic emulator that shows you can jump between the different screens and use the thumbstick to actually move the stylus there and choose anything on the screen. I guess use that as you would if it was touchscreen. Sadly, this is not touchscreen. So you can just use the shoulder buttons to switch between the different viewpoints. I guess find one that suits you. It is a little bit strange how it works, but yeah, you can get full screen, which is quite nice. Okay, let's have a quick look at N64 games. Now, there's not really an awful lot of N64 games on here. You may want to add your own, but let's have a look at Wave Race. That's a pretty decent game to sort of push this to its limits, I would have thought. Again, with the N64 game, you'll probably have to use the thumbstick. I guess it's quite handy that it's included. It makes a lot of these games more accessible, I guess.
Warm-up time. Follow that dolphin.
I didn't see any dolphin. Oh, that's there. Yeah, it's not quite running at full speed, but it's not too bad at all.
Select start the race from the pause screen menu.
Certainly very, very playable. This is only the practice right enough, but seems pretty decent to me. So one thing I've definitely noticed is like exiting games can be a little bit slow. The performance isn't quite as fluid as you would like. So going back to the main menu, you usually just press this button here. And depending on which emulator you're using, you'll have to go through RetroArch or PSP, whatever it is, and just find the exit by pressing confirm on the A button. But getting back to the main menus, it does take a good 20 seconds or so. It does seem a little bit sluggish in that aspect. So there is open board games on here as well. There's a sort of good variety of games. I'm not really going to try through them. Let's have a look at Dreamcast games. I guess we could choose some Soul Calibur action, see what that's actually performance like. Let's have a try. Interestingly, there is some breakups in the graphics there, which is a bit unusual. Haven't really seen that on a device for quite some time. Like I said, you can change the emulator, but I think the other default emulator, the performance was actually worse. But as long as the main game is playing fine, then I don't have any issue with that at all. It seems to be performing quite well. But just be wary, you might not get all games running at full speed across like N64 and Dreamcast, but I guess for the best part they should be okay. So that's probably pushing this to the limits of what this unit can play. As I said, it's not going to be playing PlayStation 2 games, won't be playing GameCube games, but you'll find that anything below PlayStation 1, Mega Drive, SNES, they'll all be absolutely fine. And there's plenty of things to play here. If you're looking for a reasonable plug-and-play device, then this is pretty decent for what it is. There's also alternatives out there, such as the Mayu Mini, even the Super Pockets from Blaze. They're not too bad, and you can choose your different Evercade cartridges as well. But if you're just looking for a quick, cheerful plug-and-play device, this is actually pretty decent for what it is. I suppose let's have a look at Atomiswave. I guess Donphan Blue usually is a good indication of where the performance is at with this unit. Oops, the performance isn't actually too bad. Apart from the sort of annoying break up in the sound, it seems to be performing pretty well. Okay, so I'm not going to play through everything that's on here. There's plenty of stuff to choose from. Some NES titles, there's 600 odd to choose from. Game Boy games, there's loads. Game Boy Advance, as I said, we've covered this already. Game Boy Color. There are tons and tons of things to choose from here. I would expect all of this to run absolutely fine. I have tested it offline and there's no massive issues going through any of these. They're all really good. Just don't expect anything great from maybe PSP. Dreamcast and N64 is okay. So obviously lower your expectations, you should be fine. So I'll have a quick look at Pico and maybe Saturn before we wrap up the video. But I love playing these Pico 8 games. I think these devices are perfect for them. If you do like Pico 8, then this is ideal for this. Get addicted. Oops. Die lots of times. Excellent stuff. Now let's have a quick look at Saturn games. There are a few to choose from here. I'm not sure how hard these games will push it. I guess maybe Clockwork Knight might be a good option to choose. Let's have a look at Clockwork Knight 2. I wouldn't expect too much, I guess, from other sort of Saturn games out there, but the fact that it's running this one is quite surprising. I have tried this on other devices before, and the performance has been a little bit all over the place. You can see there's some shimmer and the sort of polygons there, so not going to be quite perfect, but I guess this isn't too bad at all. So before we wrap up the video, interestingly there is actually Mega CD games on here as well, and there's a good selection. You've got Final Fight, Snatcher, Sonic CD. Quite surprised Snatcher's included here, but certainly one of my all-time favourite Mega CD games. Let's have a look at it.
June 6th, 1996. A mysterious explosion.
Now if you've never played this game, what are you waiting for? This is a good opportunity. Get this device, play this game. One of the best Mega CD games ever. Certainly up there in one of my most favourite games of all time. I absolutely loved it. Guys, doing a quick comparison, this is actually the Mayu Mini Plus, which is a really good device, probably a little bit cheaper. You can see here the size difference is actually quite surprising. This is also a little bit smaller, although you can see there's less bezels on the Mayu Mini Plus. I'd certainly recommend this device, but I think if you're looking for a slightly larger screen, then the RG40XXV is definitely the better choice. I thought the Mayu Mini Plus was actually bigger than that. It's still pretty small in comparison. So interesting looking at the comparison. The Super Pocket isn't that much smaller, I guess, but the screen size is much smaller than the RGXXV, which is kind of fascinating. Although the Super Pocket is only 50 quid, the RGXXV will be something between 70 and 85, I would reckon, depending on where you go. Okay guys, so let's wrap up this video and my overall thoughts of the RG40XXV. I think it's actually a really nice unit. For the price, 75, it's not bad. It's a plug and play. If you're just looking for that sort of thing without too much tinkering, it is the perfect device for that. Performance is really good, up to probably Dreamcast and N64. Don't expect too much from PSP, and don't expect to be playing GameCube or PlayStation 2 games at all. You're going to have to spend double the amount of money to play those type of things. Before it looks a really nice device. Great battery life, 6 to 8 hours. and the screen is fantastic as well. So there's definitely a lot to love about this little unit. I love the colour as well. The blue is very, very striking, and it's reasonably priced for what it is. There is a lot of competition out there, so not really sure if this would be your first go-to unit, but it is really nice for what it is. Anyway guys, if you get any questions, please drop it into the comments and I'll try and answer them about this device. It is really nice. I would recommend it. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to have a look at Droids UK, although I have to stress, probably not the cheapest place to go to. Might want to wait for some sales or look at alternative places, but they are extremely reliable and will offer you next day service. They are a fantastically reliable company to get your devices from, especially if you live in the UK. There is Droids EU as well if you live outside there, which might be a little bit more convenient, but overall I would highly recommend them. They are fantastic. Anyway guys, thanks very much for watching our video. We'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.